Hi,
Archie, how are you?
good. My mom is here
Hi, Mom.
I'm carrying my stuff.
No problem.
because we are going camping with our friend this weekend.
Great. I think camping is so much fun, and you love to go camping, don't you?
Yes.
That will be great. I can't wait to hear all about it on Monday, okay?
Okay.
All right, I will share my screen with you. Okay, let's move our star. I always like to see what we just finished reading, and this picture helps me remember that Harper and Jody are in the basement of the school, sneaking around, spying on the science teacher, investigating what she's up to and why she has gone down into the basement 3 times this week that Jody has seen. And this picture also reminds me that Jody has a big imagination, and she thinks that the science teacher came from a family of mermaids, or maybe from Atlantis. And mermaids and Atlantis are not real, so we can see what a big imagination Jody has. So they're looking inside this door that they found ajar. And Harper says, "What do you see?" And this is where we are picking up today. "It looks like a classroom," Jody whispered. Now, a classroom seems not very exciting. That seems a little boring. And we know that Jody has a big imagination, so I'm wondering what else she will say. She says, "But there are big tanks of water, and I think I hear something, an animal scuttling and squeaking." Jody strained her ears. That means she tried to listen really carefully. Just then, a shrill noise sounded out. A shrill noise is going to be a noise that it hurts our ears, maybe a really high-pitched noise that makes our ears hurt. It was so loud and unexpected that Jody nearly screamed. "We must have tripped an alarm," she hissed over the noise. "Sharkmen." Oh, here comes the imagination. Sharkmen. That would be a man who's a shark. Do you think there really is a shark man? No. Sharkmen are probably already on their way to detain us. Detain means to stop us and then keep us from going anywhere. "We have to get out of here." "No, wait," Harper said. She reached into her backpack and pulled out, dun, 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 a phone. So what was that high-pitched, shrill, loud noise that made Jody jump and almost scream? It was the sound of Harper's phone. A moment later, the door swung open. Remember, they'd been trying to be really quiet, right? They were wearing sneakers. They were sneaking around. They did not want to make any sound at all because they wanted to spy on the teacher. But then Harper's phone went off, and it was so loud that Doc Culpepper heard them, and she came over and opened the door and was like, And then she said, "What in the name of Ada Lovelace's morning tea is going on out here?" she asked. This is a very interesting way for her to ask the question of, "What are you doing here?" So instead of her opening the door and saying, "Harper and Jody, what are you two doing here?" she opens the door and says, "What in the name of Ada Lovelace's morning tea is going on out here?" Now, a more typical reaction might be for someone to say, what in the world is going on out here? So we might say, what in the world? That just means we are very surprised and we are really wondering what's happening. And we don't have an answer, but we're very curious and we're surprised. So we might just say, what in the world? Well, remember, Doc Culpepper doesn't do things in the normal, typical way. And so she changes that common expression from being what in the world to being what in the name of Ada Lovelace's morning tea, which really doesn't make any sense other than it reminds us that Doc Culpepper is a little bit strange. Remember, we heard that for her, being strange is normal for her. Well, I was kind of curious, who is Ada Lovelace? And guess what? I found out. So I went to Google and I went to the biography.com site. Now, a biography is the story of a person's life. It tells the history of their life, when they were born, where they were born, who their parents were, anything special that they did in their life. And so it tells us all about the story of their life.
So if you go to the Google and like put my name on it and it will come out to me.
Well, I'm afraid not, at least not until you do something famous. On the biography.com website, they are only showing the biographies of famous people who have done something really special that, we want to remember that person for having invented this or invented that. Well, it turns out that this lady, her name was Ada Lovelace, was considered the first computer programmer. And she was born a long time ago, 1815. So we are right now in 2021. But let's for just a minute pretend that's 2015, because that would only be 6 years ago. And that's a little bit easier to compare to 1815. So 1815 plus 100 years would be 1915, plus another 100 years would be 2015. So from 1815 to 2015 is 200 years. And then from 2015 to 2021 is another 6 years. So 200 years plus 6 years is 206. So she was born 206 years ago. Do you think she's still alive? I would say probably not. I think you shook your head. So, and it actually tells us the year that she died. She died in 1852. We can figure out how old she was when she died by saying, well, if she died in 1852 and she was born in 1815, all we have to do is find the difference between those 2 years. Well, let's see here. We need to regroup a little bit. So 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 take away 5 is 7. And then here in the tens place, 4 take away 1 is 3. And in the hundreds place, 8 take away 8 is 0. And 1 take away 1 is 0. So the number is 37. She actually only lived 37 years. So she died when she was 37 years old. So she did not live very long. She was pretty young when she died. It tells us a little bit about her. She was from England. She was a mathematician. Isn't that a fun word? Mathematician. Mathematician has this little word right here, math. Math is what you do in school when you learn how to add and subtract, multiply and divide numbers. A mathematician is someone who does that. They do math for their job. So she was a mathematician in England. She had a really famous father who I will tell you about after you turn your video camera back on. Where is Archie? Where is Archie? I can't see you. I still can't see you. I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay, she had a very famous father. Her father was a poet named Lord Byron. And this lady, Ada, has been called the first computer programmer. So that's some information about who Ada Lovelace is. And Doc Culpepper knew about her. But then remember, Doc Culpepper said, in the name of Ada Lovelace's morning tea. I'm like, well, guess what? There's this tea company called Adagio Teas that actually made a tea that they named after Ada Lovelace. And the tea, they called it was a group of teas they called Faces of Science. So they found people who were famous in the field of science or science and math, and then they made a tea after them. So this Ada, there's that picture of Ada. We just saw her from biography.com. And her tea has berries, chamomile, and Earl Grey green tea. And then their website showed us what those ingredients look like. So you can see the berries, the chamomile, and the Earl Grey green tea. And then those got mixed together to make the tea that this company called Ada Lovelace's tea. And so Doc Culpepper calls it Ada Lovelace's morning tea. Anyway, it's just a very silly thing because Ada Lovelace has nothing to do with this story, and tea does not have anything to do with this story either. This just tells us or gives us evidence of Doc Culpepper being strange and not saying things really the normal way or thinking of normal things. Most people would just say, "What in the world?" And she said, "What in the name of Ada Lovelace's morning tea?" It's showing her surprise. When she opened the door, she was not expecting to see Harper and Jody sneaking around down in the basement of the school. You can see here, this is Harper's phone, and it says incoming call. And Harper says, "Sorry." She seemed to be apologizing to both Jody and Doc at the same time. "I just got my sister's hand-me-down smartphone. I guess I forgot to turn the sound off." So she's saying, "I'm sorry, that's me. It's my sister's phone. I got it. I forgot to turn the sound off. I forgot to put it on mute." Harper's phone was ringing, and it was ringing so loud that Doc Culpepper heard them and came to the door to say, "What are you doing here?" So their whole mission is ruined, right? Their mission to sneak around and spy and not have anyone hear them or see them, that's over. Because now Doc Culpepper sees them right there at her door down in the basement of the school. But maybe they will find out what she's doing down there. So let's see. It says Jody slapped her own forehead, kind of like this. Sometimes we do that when we're just like, you know, just like, I can't believe it. Harper, she thinks, she's not saying this, there's no quotation marks, but I think that she's thinking this. Harper was talented, okay, really good at many things, but apparently, or obviously, she was not much of a spy, right? That's what Jody's thinking. You know, Harper, you're smart, you're good at science, you're good at Minecraft, you're good at building things, you're good at remembering Minecraft formulas, but you're not a good spy, right? A good spy would turn their phone off and not get caught when they're sneaking around. But then Doc Culpepper says, "But what are you two doing down here at all?" Doc asked. I didn't miss the morning bell again, did I? And that's an interesting question. I don't know what happens at your school, but in a school, sometimes between classes or when one class is over and another class is starting, there might be a bell that rings. Or at the beginning of the day, when the first class is starting, there might be a morning bell. So schools often use a bell to help people know what time it is. And if a class is starting or if the day is starting. You turned your video camera off on me again. But what's interesting about this question is she says, I didn't miss it again. This word again, I think is very interesting because it gives us a piece of information about the teacher. That means that she has missed the bell before. I mean, she's a teacher. She should know if the bell is ringing and be in class on time, right? But if she gets so busy doing whatever she's doing down in the basement that she doesn't hear the bell or she misses the bell, then she would be late for class or late for school. And we just found out in the question that she asked that she has missed the bell before because she said, I haven't missed the bell again, have I? So that word again tells us a lot about this teacher. And now we know that this is a teacher who gets so busy doing what she's doing that she doesn't hear the bell and then she's late. Well, Jody doesn't know what to say. I mean, how do you say to the teacher, I was spying. I think that you're a mermaid. I think you're from Atlantis. I think that, you know, you're doing strange things down here. So I came to spy on you. Does she really want to tell Doc Culpepper the truth about what she's really doing down there? So she says, we were, Jody fumbled for an excuse. I'm going to talk about this word fumbled for just a minute. Fumbled is a word that actually comes from the game of football. So we're going to take a break for just a second and look at a football field. This is American football. Do you know this game, Archie? Does your dad like American football? Does he ever watch a game on TV? No. American football is a game that has a really big field. It's easier to show you from a football game what a fumble looks like. Now, here you're going to see two teams. One is wearing a red shirt and another one is wearing a white shirt and blue pants. You can see these white letters here. Well, on a football field, they put the letters at both ends of the field. And each team is trying to get the ball into the end of the field for the other team. And then they get points. So if we can see the letters here at the end of the field, that's called the end zone. That means that one of these teams is really close to getting a touchdown, to getting points. All they have to do is get the ball across that white line, this white line right here. Can you see my mouse? This white line right here. Okay, if they can get the ball across that line, then they will have a touchdown. There's two things they can do. One thing is one person can hold onto the ball and just run across the line, but he can't drop the ball. If he drops the ball, that's called a fumble. The other thing they can do is the quarterback, he's the kind of the leader of the team. He can take the ball and throw it. He can throw it to one of his teammates. And then the teammate, if he catches it in the end zone, then they have a touchdown. Or if he catches it and then runs across the white line into the end zone, then they have a touchdown. But he can't drop the ball. Now, if someone has the ball and they're running and they drop it, or the other team kind of pushes it out of their hands, that's called a fumble. As soon as there is a fumble, everyone on both teams jumps on the ball and they try to be the first one to grab it, okay? Because let's say the team with the white shirt has the ball and they're holding on to it. and then they drop it. Well, if the team with the red shirt is the one to pick it up, then they have the ball now, and then they can run the ball away from their end zone and head toward the other end of the field. So in this video, there are some examples of fumbles. So we're not going to watch all of them, but I will show you just a few. So you can see the ball got dropped. Oh, now it got dropped again. Now it got dropped again. Now it got dropped again. You can see the whole football field there. It's really big. So you can see that there, he fumbled right there. And then the red guy picked it up. Sometimes they kind of dance when they get into the end zone. We'll look at one more. There's the guy throwing the ball up, he fumbled it, and then the other team got it. And then they're gonna run all the way to the other end of the field, across the line, into the end zone, and he got his points for his team. Okay, so that word fumble is a word from football, and it's when you drop the ball. And it's really not a good thing to do because it means the other team has a chance to get the ball. And you don't want the other team to have a chance to get the ball. You're supposed to really hold on to the football tightly and not let anybody push it out of your hands or accidentally drop it. When people fumble, it's an accident. And so they don't do it on purpose. So here we see the word fumbled, but Jody is not playing football. So the word fumble might be a word that we think of with a football game where someone has the ball and then they accidentally they don't hold on to it tightly and they might kind of bobble it a little bit and then drop it. And it's like, oh, I can't believe that happened. Well, when we're talking about an example like this, where Jody fumbled for an excuse, it means that she doesn't know what to say. And so she's trying to kind of save face. She's trying to figure out what can she say that would sound okay. And so she wouldn't be in trouble and it would make sense and no one would be upset with her. But she doesn't really want to say the truth because she's worried that the truth would make Doc Culpepper upset with her or maybe lose respect for her. So she doesn't really want to say the truth, but she doesn't know what to say and someone's waiting for an answer. So you have to figure it out right now. Like, what am I going to say right now? But you don't know what. So you're fumbling. You're like, And then Harper interrupted. And Harper just said, "We were just curious," Harper said. She gave Jody a look that said, "We may as well be honest, right?" Now, a look that said, this is kind of tricky. This is where you look at someone and you're saying something kind of with your eyes and with your face, with your body language or your facial expression. You're trying to get your friend to know what you mean, even though you're not saying it out loud in words. You're just like, trying to get them to hoping that they will figure out what you're thinking. So we know that Jody is not saying this out loud because this is italics. And I put in some quotation marks here, but the author did not. The book does not have quotation marks. So she is not saying this out loud. When the author wants to show the reader that someone is thinking something, but not saying it out loud, she might put it in italics like this. And she might say, she thought, or she gave a look that said. So we know that this is what Harper was thinking, that, well, we might as well be honest, right? Being honest cannot get us in trouble. Of course, I think Jody thought that being honest would get them in trouble. Jody shrugged. So shrugged is when we just lift up our shoulders and we say with our body language, you know, fine, you know, and so then she says to Doc Culpepper, because we see the quotation marks, she says, yeah, I saw you. So I, as Jody, saw you, Doc Culpepper, yesterday with a bucket of water. That's kind of an odd answer, right? I mean, Harper said, well, we were just curious. And then Jody says, yeah, yesterday I saw you with a bucket of water. It's like, so. Ah, yes, Doc said, well, the mermaids. That's really funny. It's almost like Doc knows exactly what Jody was thinking. Do you think Doc Culpepper knows that Jody thought she came from mermaids? I don't know. Let's see what is the rest of her sentence. She says, well, the mermaids do get very thirsty. Well, I think Harper knew that Doc Culpepper was kidding, but Jody did not seem to know that. Jody vibrated with excitement. Vibrated is like, oh, she's like, really? You've got mermaids down here? So you can tell by Jody's answer, I think she really does believe that mermaids are real. Doc chuckled. This means laughed. I'm just teasing. No, I have something better than mermaids. Come and take a look. The girls followed Doc into a room that smelled strongly of the sea. You know what the ocean smells like, right? That's what this room smells like. It looked very much like her classroom lab, but it was bigger. There were a dozen. This word dozen means 12. 12 long black tables, and each table held a large aquarium. The aquariums were filled with water, but otherwise empty. Now I want to show you an aquarium. This is an aquarium. A lot of people have this in their house, and then they have fish. You can choose to have an aquarium with salt water or with fresh water. But if you have fresh water, you can only have freshwater fish. And if you have salt water, you can only have saltwater fish. Because fish that live in fresh water don't live in salt water, and fish that live in salt water don't live in fresh water, as far as I know. Here's another example of an aquarium. So this would be the kind of aquarium that someone might have in their house. But you know what? Some people that have really fancy homes have really fancy aquariums. Would you like to see some of the really fancy aquariums that I found in people's houses where they live? I will show you. Here is someone's bedroom. Do you see their bed? Could you imagine?
There's a shark.
Is there a shark? Oh, right there. Could you imagine? I don't know that I would sleep very well. Would you like to sleep in this bedroom? It might be kind of cool. Here is an aquarium that looks like it's in the kitchen, because you can see that where people can eat their breakfast or their dinner here. And over here is a sink. And this looks like, I don't know if that's the stove or not. But look, there's underneath the counter is the aquarium. Here is a person's living room. And it looks like they have their TV right here, and they have their couches. And this whole wall is an aquarium. I kind of like that one. This one looks like it is in someone's living room. That's pretty, isn't it? Here's another one that's in a bedroom. And you know, they have it so that if your head is right here on the pillow and you look up, I think you will see water. I think you could see a fish swim right over your head. Would you like to sleep in this bedroom? That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? And here's a picture in a dining room where you could have your meal at the table, and there's a really big aquarium on one whole side of the wall. Here's a living room, and the aquarium is going around. You know, usually I think this is where you would put a fireplace, but I don't know how you could have a fireplace here with the aquarium around it. You know, when I look out the window, it almost looks like they are right on the beach. I think this looks kind of like the ocean back here. Here's one that is in someone's house near the dining room. You can see their table back here. And here's one that's designed to fit the stairs going up these 4 steps. So those are some pretty creative aquariums from some pretty fancy houses. But most people that have an aquarium would have one that looks like this. And in the back of the room, Baron Sweet Cheeks, Jody cried, spotting the class hamster in his cage. What is he doing here? So here is their class pet, Baron Sweet Cheeks. And I have a picture here of a hamster. So here is a picture of a hamster in his cage. Some people like to put this little wheel in the cage. Do you know why?
The hamster can run. It will not be very fat.
Right, right. And here's a picture of the hamster looking out of his cage. And you know what I thought was funny was someone took this picture, the same exact picture, and look what they put on the hamster. I think it's the same picture. So I think they just did it in Photoshop. I don't think it was real. I think they used the computer to change the picture. So they say, what is he doing here? And Doc Culpepper said, Minerva. I think this is the first name of their classroom teacher. Minerva let me borrow him, Doc answered. It gets lonely down here, and science needs observers. I think the other day we talked about observe, observant, observation. And I said that Jody was observant because she had noticed that Doc Culpepper had gone down the stairs into the basement 3 times that week. Observer comes from that same word. In fact, we could go back here where we looked at observe, observant, and observation. So we could have the same word, observe, and then I'm going to put an R at the end. When we have an ER suffix at the end of a word, we can turn that word into a person who does that. So if this part of the word here is a verb, observe is something we can do, and we put an ER at the end, then observer is someone who observes, someone who is good at looking at things. Like a swimmer is someone who swims. A runner is someone who runs. A reader is someone who reads. An observer is someone who observes. And science needs observers, because when we are doing science experiments, we want to watch what happens. We're always asking the question, what will happen if I do this? Well, we need to be watching to see. If we're not watching, if we're not observing, then we won't notice what happens when we do different things in the experiment. And Doc Culpepper likes to do experiments, so she needs observers. But do you think the hamster is a good observer? No, because the hamster is not going to be able to give a report and say, well, I noticed this, and this, because he doesn't talk. So the hamster lapped water from his water bottle. Jody thought he looked extra adorable today. Very cute. Then she noticed the aquarium beside him. Unlike the others, it was full of life. Small fish darted back and forth above a colorful seabed. "What kind of science are you doing?" asked Harper. "It looks like you've recreated a little slice of the ocean." "That's right," said Doc. "This is just the start of a great experiment. Tomorrow, I'll remove pieces of coral from the main aquarium. The coral will be transferred to the other tanks you see all around you." "That's coral?" Jody asked. She took a closer look. So I have a piece of coral right here. I'll bring it down so we can see it in the tank. So you can see, here's coral, and I think we can see it in the tank right here. Now there are many types of coral. This is just one type, but that coral there looks a little bit like this one here. You can see there's another one here. Now coral it might look like just a bone or a shell or a rock. It's hard. It's not squishy, it's hard. But a coral is alive. It's living. That means it can grow. It is life.
It has eggs.
Yeah, it does have eggs.
Yes.
Maybe you know more about coral than I do, but I do know it's living and it can grow. So maybe, I bet you're right. We'll have to do some research on that. Now, here in Taiwan, here's a map of Taiwan. So we can see here, up here's China, and then here's Taiwan, and here's Taichung right here, and up here's Taipei. But if we head south past Kaohsiung and come down here, there's Shaoliocho right here with the sea turtles. But if we keep coming down here, right around here in this orange circle, there is an aquarium. And if we go all the way down to the very tip at the end, this is where Kunding is, okay, where we have the beautiful beaches. Have you ever been to this aquarium? It's really big. It's a really nice aquarium. And then I think you've been all over Taiwan. So you know maybe this is Green Island right here, and there's Hualien. I know you've been there. And Taidong, Tainan, Yilan up here. So there is a really famous aquarium in Taiwan down south of Kaohsiung heading towards Kunding. Okay, we're going to just finish up chapter 3 here. Okay, it says here, she'd thought the seabed was mostly rocks. This is Jody. Okay, she's taking another look. She'd thought. She'd thought. She apostrophe D is she had. She had thought. She had thought the seabed was mostly rocks. Seabed would be the bottom of the ocean. Up close, however, the material looked somewhat bony or shell-like, like bones or shells. It grew in interesting shapes, swirls and branches. The mix of colors was strikingly beautiful. It's like a whole reef, Jody continued. She had seen pictures in books of great coral reefs, environments where ocean life thrived. Thrived means they grew and grew really well. The images would be the pictures that she has seen. The images always reminded her of the rainforest, but underwater. This is for an experiment, Harper said. Her eyes drank in all the color. This word drank is not talking about drinking water. It just means that her eyes are just taking it all in. They just can't get enough. They want to see everything. And then she says, Harper says, "Can we help?" Doc smiled. "I was hoping you'd offer." And here's an apostrophe D, but this one means, this apostrophe D is would. You would. She says, "I was hoping you would offer. In fact, for a project this big, I will, yep, I'll need the help of your entire class, the whole class." Jody said, "Cool." Harper said, "Great." Suddenly, Harper's backpack made a shrill electronic chirping sound again, right? Her phone is ringing again. And she says, "Oops, sorry," she said. And she slapped her backpack until the phone went silent. She just kept hitting her backpack until the phone stopped ringing. Before we say so long, I wanted to show you a few pictures of a coral reef. But this first picture is not from the coral reef in the ocean. This is a coral reef that is being grown in a laboratory right here. And you can see all of the pretty colors. This one is from the ocean. So you can see the pretty colors in the coral reef. This is also from the ocean. So the coral reef has many beautiful, vibrant colors and many different kinds of coral. And there are fish that just love to live in the coral reef. You can see how beautiful it is. Going snorkeling around a coral reef is a really beautiful thing to do. So again, this is under the water in the ocean, but the colors are just so bright and so beautiful. Here you can see a scuba diver is swimming around this coral reef. This is a close-up look at some of the different kinds of coral in the coral reef. You can see how pretty it is. Here's another type of coral right here. Really pretty. And then there's a movie that you might have seen, Finding Nemo, where the fish at the beginning are living in the area of a coral reef. Did you ever see this movie? Yes? Oh, here was a couple more. This is the real coral reef. Really pretty, really beautiful. So you can see all of the fish that are living in this area. Okay, I think that is lots of different colors. So the coral reef is very beautiful. And Doc Culpepper is going to have the entire class do some science experiments that are about coral. So that will be really interesting. And that is in the real world, not the Minecraft world. All of chapter 3 was in the real world. They were not in the Minecraft world. They were not wearing their VR goggles. So maybe the next chapter, we might go back into the Minecraft world, I'm thinking. All right, well, now we can say,
So long, Cheddar Sheep.
have a great time camping. Bye, Archie.
Bye. See you next Monday.
Okay.